The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not be in want. He makes me lie down in green pastures and leads me beside still waters. He revives my soul and guides me in right pathways for his name's sake. Though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. You spread a table before me in the presence of those who trouble me. You anoint my head with oil, and my cup is running over. Surely your goodness and mercy will follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. Monique Clark was 35, 1 year younger than I am. And she was going to work last Saturday when her friends said, hey, stop by a party beforehand. I want you to come to this birthday party. And you know how you don't really want to go to a party, but you're just going to show up just to say hi, be there for a bit. She had to go to work. So she went up to a pool in University City and was spending time with her friends when she was shot senselessly. She left 3 kids, Amaya, 13, Aaliyah, 11, and Mathewson, 3 years old. And I don't know about you, but I sort of put these sort of stories in the mass shootings category just to try to keep some sanity in my life. But there was actually some connection to St. Luke's in this case, because I've actually met Mathewson before, because her grandpa, Tony, is one of the leaders of one of the recovery groups who meet. And so I was talking to him on the phone, and he was, of course, devastated, but also praising God still, that he was still able to maintain his sobriety in the face of this impossible to understand event. It's in times like these that we need to know that God is a shepherd, and that we are sheep, and that God will be with us in the darkest valleys, when there is evil that in its pure ignorance and senselessness can tear apart our lives. We especially need to know that God is with us, and that is comforting. There's a security in that we have a shepherd that will lay down his life for his sheep, protect us from the dangers of this world. And I wish that included the dangers of crazy shooters at pools in University City, but it doesn't. But we do believe, especially during the season of Easter when we keep that Easter candle lit, that there's something beyond death too. But that's why we bring up Psalm 23 at funerals, right? But there must be another reason we also, each fourth Sunday of Easter, every year, think of this image of God as shepherd. I think there's something else to that image than just the protection and comfort that it can provide. Because something else happens in the psalm, and something else happens in the gospel today. The shepherd leads the sheep out. He guides them along right pathways for God's name's sake. Another way to translate that from the Hebrew, according to Joel Lamont, a professor at Emory, is that he guides us in well-worn grooves of goodness for God's glory. Well-worn grooves of goodness. So it makes me think of a dear friend who also died recently, a few weeks ago, but while it's very, very sad, he lived a long life, 70 years old, really cool guy named Chris. And I got to know him when I was working at St. Paul's Cathedral. And he had this ministry he just did himself. He would get on his bike every Sunday or Saturday afternoon, sometimes twice on a weekend, And he would bike around Balboa Park and get to know the people who lived out there. Knew them by name, would listen to their stories, and cared for them. Kind of like a shepherd, really. But I was getting to know him, and I was wanting to, at the cathedral, try to get us more involved with homeless ministry out there. And I thought, man, Chris is already doing this stuff. We can learn from him. And over many conversations, because he was resistant, I'm happy to say that I think I was partnered with the Holy Spirit in providing a bit of that leading out force, like a shepherd from that sheepfold, because he was finally willing to invite some friends along. I don't know, if Calvin and Donna, did you all ever go with him on Wandering Hearts? No. He started to bring some people with him. He didn't like it at first. You know, he liked to be the solo show, but as he did, more people got to know these folks out there, and they started to change. And what that led to, and it took a year or two, eventually. So the cathedral started to open itself up enough to have a mobile shower unit there once a month. And it's still going today. It's 2 years now. To care for people who live on the streets and just give them a shower and some breakfast, some clothes. And it was just this wonderful example of how someone who had really started to kind of become comfortable in his own routines was willing to allow God to pull him out of that and follow some new path that really did glorify God in the process. And so I wonder for you, where are you right now? Do you need God? Do you really need to be reminded of God as comforter, a shepherd who protects, especially in those dark valleys if you are there? Or are you sort of like me, where I think I'm kind of more in the sheepfold right now and enjoying the comfort of that, but probably need to be let out again. Let out on those well-worn grooves of goodness. Because there are folks in this world, sheep, let us say, that need green pastures, that need to find still waters. No, there is too much violence and discrimination and ignorance out in this world and suffering. There are a lot of people who need a shepherd, who need our help. We can help with that. And then there's also a ton of folks out there who are just confused, who are cynical, who can't believe in the possibility of a shepherd or don't think they need one. Many in my generation who subscribe to that Van Gogh quote. I don't know if you've heard this one. I can know nothing with any certainty, but when I see the stars, it makes me dream. Is that true? Can we really not know anything with any certainty? I think we can. And I think there's a story that we had to tell at St. Luke's as Christians. And it's a story that we have to live out as well. The story begins with a God creating heaven and earth, all powerful and all loving, but still somehow cares enough about each one of us to craft us lovingly as well and delight in each one of us like God's own child. And then invites us into this purpose, this mission of God, to make sure every single one of God's children in this world thrives, lives life with that abundance that we heard of in today's gospel. That's something we can rely on. And that is a story that we have to tell. But we don't have to do it alone. God actually wants us to do it together. But it's kind of funny if you think about it, right? Like us. We're not that many. I mean, we don't look the same, come from such different experiences and backgrounds. We're kind of an unlikely bunch. But trust me, the disciples were definitely an unlikely bunch too. And look what they managed to do, right? Over 2,000 years, somehow the work that they did brought us here in this building today with God's help. And that's the relief in all that, with God's help. So where do we go from here together? Where is God leading us together? There's some exciting stuff happening in the next month. It's looking very, very close to, for sure, happening that a new church will soon begin worshiping in this space between our two services. And the first date for that should be June 4th, which is like liturgically perfect because it's Pentecost, celebrating the birth of the church, and it's going to be awesome. We have some work to do to prepare for that. And it fits with what I've been saying because it's going to increase our capacity to do this mission in the world, right? To reach more folks who need to know that there is a God who loves them, or maybe just need some food, or a listening ear. Genesis, this church that's coming in, is going to help increase that capacity. They're going to bring in some financial resources. They're going to bring more people who want to join with us in doing that sort of work. Maybe volunteering more with Uptown, to seeing how we can help this job training program in the kitchen or the garden that will continue to evolve. We've got a really cool program developing that George has been a part of, connecting folks who have lived in the U.S. for a long time with people who haven't, just to be friends with them. Pretty exciting things happening. Just need more people. And Genesis will bring those people too. So it's going to be fun. One way you can help with that actually is this Friday, we're going to have a pizza party and preparation for painting, which will also extend into Saturday. So either Friday or Saturday if you can come. We're going to be turning the little chapel space back there into a nursery for kids. And then a room, the old library room, kind of by the stage. It's going to be a youth room. So we're going to paint those. We got some extra volunteers in time. We're going to paint the bathrooms downstairs. Just keep on freshening up, you know? Keep on preparing this place for new folks and for new life. If you are in one of those dark valleys, I hope you can experience God as a shepherd who protects and helps you feel comforted. And for the rest of us, I think God's leading us out, the sheepfold together. And it may be uncomfortable at times, but I think it's going to glorify God. And this next phase is going to involve welcoming in a new church and see if we can kind of pull out our best hospitality for that. I think we're going to really be blessed by that. I think they're going to be blessed by that. I think it's going to bless the neighborhood. It's going to glorify God. And I hope throughout all of it, and especially when we feel sort of uncomfortable or annoyed and, you know, now I have to walk farther for parking or whatever it is, hope we can remember that we are part of this greater mission, this greater purpose. And keep that in our sights. We've got an invitation, and there's a need out there. So together, do all we can alongside God to make sure that every one of God's children has what she or he needs to thrive. That is a mission worthy of our lives. It will be an adventure. We'll do it together. Thanks be to God.